I'm making this video because I've never seen anyone else suggest a method that would fix our monetary system. And I don't mean just locally in the United States, but throughout the entire world. We have a severe problem in that money is created out of thin air. They call it fiat money from the Federal Reserve, which is a subsidiary of other international banking systems, et cetera, et cetera. And it goes around, headquartered in Switzerland. But be that as it may, they are banks, and they were organized 300 plus years ago, and they've been running this system whereby they take power and take the wealth of every country they come in contact with. With the exception, I believe there's 3 countries in the world right now that are not controlled by the central banking system. Now, you could say this is conspiracy type stuff, and you could say, well, the guy's a crackpot or whatever his theory is, but that's not true, because if you do some looking in history, you can see that they were given authority in 1913, I believe. But prior to that, our country started off, I think Abraham Lincoln changed it around to where the government creates its own money. Now that didn't work back then because our country was too small, too much, I guess in its incipient phase, where we couldn't stand on our own 2 feet. In fact, no country could stand on their own 2 feet other than, I suspect, England at the time, in a global fashion, so to say. Of course, you could go to the Aboriginal jungles and you have tribes standing on their own 2 feet, but not on a global scale interacting with the rest of the world. So if you wanted to play that game, you had to be involved in the international banking system. Now, you know, I could say, well, I've done my studying and I think I'm just speculating. I'm not saying this is the way it is, but I'm saying that you could do your research and say, well, it certainly appears that the banking cartel is a bunch of Luciferians who worship the devil, and they're interconnected with all kinds of, well, satanic stuff in runs in the government and everything else. Or you could say, no, in fact, they are the most benevolent people that ever walked this earth, and they saw a need in the world, and so they figured, well, let's help the people out and create a uniform monetary system, and we'll take a portion of it for our services. Who cares how you look at it? It doesn't freaking matter, because in the end, that's like analyzing the people who flew planes into the Twin Towers. Who gives a damn why they did it or what their reasoning is? The bottom line is, we don't want that to happen. It's not good for people. A lot of people died and suffered. Now, they may have had great reasons for doing what they did. They might have been doing what they felt God wanted them to do. It doesn't freaking matter what their reason is. The outcome for all of their victims wasn't very good. So we don't give a damn what reason they did it for. In the same token, the national banking system, well, I shouldn't say national, the international banking system, the outcome is the same. In other words, we have 1% of the population of this planet that controls 90+%, now maybe 99%. When you take the hidden wealth, like the kings and queens through in Europe and stuff like that, when you combine money that isn't really accounted for, it's just a handful of people controlling everything. How in the hell can you possibly justify that? It's not justifiable. Especially when you consider the fact that these parasites are nothing more than bankers. I mean, think about this for a second. If you have a person that can go 1 + 1 = 2, and then let me see, 2 and 2 = 4. That's what a banker is. Why in the hell would you reward a banker with the money that they have? That's just insane. A person that's a carpenter that can take a freaking log and saw it up and carve it up and make a beautiful piece of furniture that's useful for something, now that has some talent to it. Or a person with a few hand tools and stethoscope and stuff and listen to your heart and stuff like that and go, well, you're suffering because of this, and fix you up and send you on your way and you live another 20 years. Now that's some very valuable talent. But someone who can add 2 + 2 = 4, I'm sorry, that's not worth what we're paying them. They do nothing more than that. To think that they do more is only because they make it complex. They make rules and regulations and layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of this bank pays that bank and deduct this and add that, and we have to send this out there and pull that back. That's what they do to justify their value. But it's bullshit. It is just totally unnecessary. Okay, now that that's done, let me tell you how to fix the problem. We as a government, and I do mean we, I don't mean the way it is right now where the government is our masters. I don't mean that at all. I mean the way it was set up initially and the way it should be in every country in the world. When I say we, the government, I mean the government essentially is the one that prints the money. But how it prints the money, or why it prints the money, is because it has to pay its bills. And I don't mean bills on interest from bankers. That's over with. Done. Like instant. Overnight, you start the next day, and the next day, the government prints money through a check in digital format to pay for the employees. Now, the employees could have been like the Egyptians several thousand years ago, and they built pyramids. But today we can do more than build pyramids. We can have our municipal water systems and sewer and electricity and all the utilities, and we can have our entire healthcare system, and the list goes on and on and on. You can NASA to send somebody to the moon, or this or that, or maybe we need to stop an asteroid that's heading this way in the next 20 years. Well, let's do that. Who cares? It isn't a cost. You see what I'm saying? It's not a cost. It's an asset. It's only a cost when you deal with bankers. But when you're dealing with the public system, it's an asset. So when you have employees working for the government, that we are the people, we are the government essentially, we decide, oh, as a people, we would like to have free electricity. But we don't want that electricity to cause deleterious effects upon our country. Therefore, we're going to have solar energy. Maybe we'll have energy created by electrolysis and hydrogen created from water. We'll do it all clean. And then, of course, in our current system, they go, oh, well, that's too expensive. Well, we don't give a damn about expense anymore. The only criteria we go by is that good for our society? And how many people are we going to employ at it? Because the more people we employ, the richer our system will get. Because if you start off with $10 in your system, all you got to do is hire twice as many people, and now you have $20 in your system. Now that can run, that will run side by side with the capitalistic system. So for instance, you have somebody that wants to create beautiful automobiles. Well, that could be run on a capitalistic business, and who cares how many trillions of dollars they make building their cars. If everybody decides at some point along the way they're too greedy and it costs too much money for a car, well, then as a society we can say, well, then we'll build our own cars as a government-owned facility, and then instead of paying $300,000 for a decent car, we can pay, well, guess what? Zero, because it's a government-owned system. We go, that's the car I want, and that's the color I want. How much does it cost? It doesn't cost anything. It's zero because our government built it. You see what I'm saying? So, and then you have an IRS system that pulls back excess money, because if it pools in the pockets of people, as you well know, this is not debatable. Our current system is proof positive. That's what happens when you have a lot of money in a person's, especially a greedy person. Then all that money is used to build their power base, to corrupt political officials, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on to create their own little empire, and then all their children and their family are nothing but lazy drones upon society that never amount to anything. So to stop that, you got the IRS to pull back excess amounts of money, and then they just zero it out. The IRS doesn't take money in to pay for things. That's asinine. They just simply take in money to eliminate it out of the system, which gives a reason to keep the system going. And it circulates the money. It generates it, and then it pulls it back in when it becomes excess. Now, government employees will no longer be just paid a pittance wages. I mean, on today's system in the United States, like seriously, the lowest paid government employee, and I'm talking about a janitor, should be pulling down in today's dollars, considering what we have as a society and what it costs to live. Of course, it wouldn't be this expensive when it changes, but given on today's society, a janitor would be pulling down probably $100,000 a year. There's no reason to employ people and then cut their wages just because you can. That's asinine. I mean, you don't do that. So that's my proposal. It can get to be complex when you think about it and everything, but believe me, it's about 1,000 times simpler than the convoluted system we have right now today. And furthermore, we have to change, because what is happening right now, I mean, seriously, people look around. It's going to implode. It cannot be sustained. They talk about we have dozens of trillions of dollars in deficits, and we owe just an ungodly amount of money on interest and everything. Where do you think all that money's going? I mean, seriously, where do you think it's going? Well, it's going to go here, there. No, it goes to the bankers, because guess what? They can go 2 + 2 = 4. But that's not the way they work. They go 2 + 2 = $10 million for us. Now, for you, 2 + 2 = 3. See how it works? But they use a math that is very complex and it's hard to figure out, which benefits them. Anyways, I hope that we can switch things around. It's very simple to do. It really is simple to do, but it has to be done overnight. If you decide this is a good thing to do, it really has to be done. You can organize, but it has to be done overnight, because if not, the whole damn system will fall apart, because it's all interdependent upon each other, and the devastation would be incalculable. But if you did it overnight, just start today, it is tomorrow, everything would work just fine. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.